The Grass is Always Greener, Chapter 7. The next day saw the Bounty flying through the sky towards the Sea of Sand. Apparently, the best place for them to get the materials they'll need to make Ultra Dragon's carriage was at the scrapyard Jay's family owned. It was decided they would start building that first, as they would be unable to confront their Garmadon problem until he resurfaced again with his next evil scheme. As they flew, Lloyd took the opportunity to get a better look at the mech Nia had been flying the night before, while the rest watched with varying degrees of interest. He could always appreciate a good mech, and this was definitely a good one. While it was far smaller than those he and his team used, what it lacked in size and firepower clearly made up for in speed and versatility. "It's like a smaller version of Kai's fire mech," he said appreciatively as he circled the machine under Nia's watchful eye. Nia blinked in surprise at that assessment. "Smaller?" she said. "Yeah," Lloyd replied. "The fire mech is like 20 stories high, maybe 30. "And you let Kai drive it?" Nia asked incredulously. "Hey," said Kai in offense, before his face shifted to a smirk. "Well, now I know what I want for Christmas." "In your dreams," Nia scoffed. She then turned to look at the strange teenage Lloyd they'd found themselves with last night. "So, you know your mechs, huh?" she asked conversationally. If they were going on a cross-dimension journey with this guy, it would probably be better to get to know him first. "Sure do," Lloyd said, his face lighting up in the way only talking about one's favorite subject did. "It's my team and I's go-to method for fighting evil." "Really?" asked Jay, looking excited at the idea. "Well, yeah," Lloyd said. "I mean, it was just the 6 of us ninja against a literal army of soldiers under my father's command. We needed the edge to take them down, otherwise we'd have been overwhelmed a long time ago." "Makes sense, I guess," said Cole slowly. "Sounds awesome," said Jay, the gleam in his eyes making it clear he was already planning on building his own mech. Zane, on the other hand, looked contemplative. There was something off about what Lloyd had said. "6 ninja?" he asked. They all turned to look at the ninjroid, and he elaborated. "You said there were 6 ninja on your team, including you. Nia is a ninja in your world?" Lloyd blinked in surprise at the question. Yeah, she's the water ninja, second in command of the secret ninja force." Everyone stared at him. Lloyd glanced over at a gaping Nia, and his confusion seemed to grow. "Are you not a ninja here?" he asked slowly, as if he couldn't imagine such a thing. "No, I'm Samurai X," she said, looking just as disbelieving at the possibility of her being a ninja. Lloyd just stared at them all for a long minute, before shaking himself and saying, "Weird." "You're telling me," Nia replied. "Water ninja? Second in command? Really?" "Yep," Lloyd said. "She can move and control water and keeps everyone else in check. We'd be lost without her." Nia let out a laugh at the idea. "Well, that's not me," she said. "I don't want to be part of your boys' club anyway. Forget elemental powers. Give me a mech to fight with any day." "You can do both," Lloyd muttered quietly, moving away from the Samurai X mechs. "You can do both," Lloyd muttered quietly, moving away from the Samurai X mech to stare over the side of the Bounty. Man, this world is weird. The rest of the ninja kept quiet on their opinion that it was his world that was the weird one, though Nia was frowning thoughtfully at his words. Curious and hoping to gain some understanding, Cole spoke up. "What are we like over there?" he asked. "You didn't seem to notice you were in the wrong world at first, so is it really that different?" Lloyd snorted softly. "I really should have figured it out at the lack of sharks. That should have been a dead giveaway that wasn't Dad. I can't believe I didn't realize until he said my name." The rest exchanged confused glances behind his back. "Sharks?" "What do you mean about your name?" asked Zane. "It is your name, after all. Why wouldn't he call you by it?" Lloyd laughed. "My dad never calls me by my name. He always calls me—" Lloyd broke off and glanced at them before getting embarrassed and looking away again. "He always calls me by a pet name, I guess you could call it." Cue another perplexed look from the locals. Lord Garmadon, the great prophesized evil, giving someone even Lloyd a pet name? What sort of name would it even be? Lloyd didn't notice their looks and turned back to look at them, though his expression was a million miles away. As for my friends, well... Before he could say anything, Sensei Wu called out, "We're about to arrive. Prepare to land." The ninja all hurried to get ready for the landing, and soon the ship came to a rest just outside a large scrapyard. Jay walked to look over the opposite side of the Bounty. "Home, sweet home," he said. Lloyd joined him and looked at the piles upon piles of junk with wide green eyes. "You live here?" he asked. "Yeah," Jay said, preparing himself for the standard teasing that came when people realized he'd been raised in a junkyard. Which was why I was so surprised when instead Lloyd said, "This is awesome! We'll be able to make anything we need and then some with all this." The Master of Lightning could only watch, startled, as the ninja in green hopped down from the bounty and eagerly headed towards the piles of junk. "And he says our world is weird," he stated rhetorically. The rest of them quickly joined Lloyd on the ground, and Cole pulled him to a halt. "Hold on there, Tiger," he said. "We should probably explain things to Mr. and Mrs. Walker before we start. Especially since last time our Lloyd was here, things weren't the best," Kai added. At this Lloyd's confused look, Joey waved his hand and said, "Incident with vampires. Don't worry, it's water under the bridge, and my folks don't hold grudges. Still, I should talk to them if we're going to be here until the carriage is made." Lloyd still looked confused, but nodded and stood back as the rest of them headed into Jay's trailer home, leaving him on his own, surrounded by piles and piles of scrap. "Mom! Dad, I'm home!" Jay called as they entered. "Jay!" called Edna Walker in delight, hurrying over to give her son a big hug. "Welcome home, son," said her husband Ed as he came over to join them. "To what do we owe the visit?" "Long story. Remember Lloyd, that kid with the vampires a couple months ago?" Jay said. "Sure do," said Edna cheerfully. "Wasn't that an exciting day? So much mischief from one little kid," added Ed. "But when we saw him at the Ninja Ball Run, he seemed much better behaved." "He even came over after the race to apologize," said Edna brightly. "It was such a turnaround from before, I almost didn't recognize him." "He's really not such a bad kid when you get to know him," said Kai fondly. "We've been training him to be a ninja for a while now," Cole explained. "But last night we had a bit of an issue. Long story short, Lloyd's been sent to another dimension, and we need to build something that will allow the Ultra Dragon to take us to him," Nia said. "Oh, that poor dear," Edna gasped. "He could be anywhere." "Not anywhere, per se," said Zane reassuringly. "We have some idea where he might be, and some help to help get him back." "Do you now?" asked Ed, looking intrigued. "Yeah, so when Lloyd got sent to another dimension, he got switched with another version of him from there," Jay said. "The other Lloyd's going to help us get him back, and we'll help him get home in the process." "Well, that's wonderful, Jay," said Edna, pinching her son's cheek fondly. "You kids are welcome to use anything in the yard to help you out. Where is this other Lloyd? Is he here with you?" "He's right outside," said Cole, as they all turned to head back out the door. "We figured we'd explain things before we got started." The Master of Earth trailed off as he and the others took in the sight of the scrapyard as they exited the building. The area looked vastly different from when they'd gone inside. Entire piles of scrap had been cleared away, and in their place was a vast variety of half-completed, vaguely dragon-shaped mechs and vehicles scattered throughout the yard. "We weren't even in there 5 minutes," Nia said with a gasp. "How could someone build all this in that little time?" As if in response to her question, Lloyd suddenly came around the corner with his arms laden with even more spare parts, which he then added to one of the few remaining piles of junk. Then, before their disbelieving eyes, Lloyd spun into a vivid green tornado that gathered up the pieces and spat them back out into a perfectly constructed Siam motorcycle with the dragon theme to its shape. The Spinjitzu tornado didn't stop there and blew all around the park, picking up more pieces and adding them to the other semi-completed projects. Ed and Edna both whistled to show their appreciation. "Whoa," said Cole. "Did you guys know he could do that?" asked Kai. "Because I sure didn't." "Okay, I take it back," said Nia eagerly. "I want to be a ninja. Teach me Spinjitzu." "I do not believe this is part of Spinjitzu," said Zane. "It's like a mini tornado of creation," said Jay, gaping. Lloyd finally stopped spinning and waved them over. "Sorry, I thought I'd get started. This place is great," he said, waving in the direction of a half-built carriage that was already shaping up to be just what they would need for the Ultra Dragon. "And I got some other ideas, too, so I kinda. He gestured to the rest of the projects scattered around. "How?" Cole tried to ask, not even sure how to phrase the question. Lloyd looked sheepish. "I'm a master builder," he said, rubbing his right arm. "Building stuff from things I find around is just what I do, you know? Places like this are perfect for me." "Is this some kind of green ninja superpower?" asked Nia, her own face going somewhat green with envy. Lloyd gave her a funny look at that. "No," he replied. Master building is a learned skill. It takes training and practice, but anyone can do it. I just use spinjitzu to speed things up. Jay and Nia both exchanged glances, knowing they were thinking the exact same thing. Teach us your skills, O wise one, said Jay eagerly. We will be your best students, Nia agreed. Sensei Wu gave a huff that sounded like a mix of amusement and annoyance. It would be nice if you were as eager in your ninja training as you are with learning this new skill, he said to Jay. Jay looked sheepish. But Sensei, he whined, gesturing to the mostly done mechs scattered throughout the yard. He just made all this in under 5 minutes. 5 minutes! And he didn't even use any tools to do it, added Nia, examining a car not far from her. You didn't even weld them. How do they stay in one piece? You can weld them, but that means their pieces can't be taken apart and reused for something else later, said Lloyd, bemused at their enthusiasm. The secret to master building is getting all the pieces to interlock together so that they hold their shape and functionality, but also maneuverable enough to make changes on the fly. To demonstrate this, he walked over to a jeep that shape reminded the ninja of Rocky the Earth Dragon before he and the others combined to form Ultra. Before their very eyes, Lloyd took the pieces apart and reassembled them in the shape of a dragon-themed airplane without discarding or adding any extra pieces. Jay and Nia were both vibrating with excitement at this point, eager to start learning. Zane hovered nearby, looking very interested in learning too. Are these for us? Kai asked, unable to keep his own eagerness out of his voice as he examined the plethora of mechs. When they're done, yeah, definitely, Lloyd said. So far, though, the only thing finished is the bike, he added, pointing over to the cyan motorcycle they'd seen him construct. Immediately, all the boys began glaring at each other in a silent challenge over who would get the bike, none more fiercely than Jay, who saw the color scheme as just calling for him. But to all of their surprise, Lloyd instead walked past all of them and handed the keys to Nia. Me? She asked. Lloyd shrugged. Things aren't right in the world unless Nia is on a motorcycle, he said, pulling out his phone to show her a picture. Nia stared at the image of a girl who resembled herself with longer hair, grinning proudly as she leaned against another impressive motorcycle, with a painting of a red-haired warrior woman on the side. The boys all leaned over to see the picture too, and Jay let out his own appreciative whistle, though it was unclear if it was for the bike or the girl. Knowing him, probably both. Putting the phone away, Lloyd made his way over to the carriage and said, So, let's start Master Building 101, shall we? Jay and Nia cheered, and they, Zane, and the walkers all crowded around to learn this new skill, while the others settled back to watch them work. Guess this won't take as long as we thought it would, said Cole as he watched the more mechanically inclined members of their team get to work. Kai nodded next to him. Despite his continued skepticism of this new Lloyd, he could definitely be grateful for anything to speed this misadventure along. Don't worry, Lloyd, he thought to himself. We're coming soon.